Alright, what we have here is an Albright knot that I tied my copper to my mono. Some people use fluoro here, whether you use fluoro or mono. In the past I've always used an Albright knot, and it can be a pain. It gets hung on the reel, sometimes letting out of the guides on both the guide on the reel and the guide on the rod. It can get hung up. So what we're going to do today is show you a method without using any knot whatsoever, and the finished product is going to be similar to this right here. Much more in line, and it won't be hung up. It'll flow that much more smoothly coming off the reel and off the rod.
That's the hollow core going up onto the needle. And we're going to actually thread this up the copper at least 4 feet, preferably 5 feet. So I'm just going to continue to thread it right up the needle and right up into the line. We got to our 4.5 to 5 feet of copper up the hollow core. I'm actually going to pierce the needle out the side and pull the copper out. I'm just going to actually work it back in a little bit so that it remains hidden inside the hollow core. And then I'm going to pinch and cinch all of the copper and hollow core so that it fits tightly and works all the way to the end. Now I'm going to do this with the business end, the fluorocarbon or the monoliter. I'm going to take 30 pound or 25, 30, 40, whatever you feel like running, and insert it into a smaller 50-pound needle, and we'll do the same. Okay, so now I have the fluorocarbon coming towards the copper, and I'm actually going to just pierce the needle out at the junction of the copper. And the fluorocarbon stops right here, and the copper stops right here, so that's my junction. I'm going to do the same like I did with the copper. We're going to just tighten down on the C16 down onto the 30 pound. We're using 30 pound here, right to my end. Now we're going to have some frayed ends on this end. This will need to be served as well as the end on the copper. I'll show you that in a moment. But essentially, when done properly, you'll have a 100% secure strength knotless line. Okay, now I set this up on a serving jig just because I tie so many of them. It's easier, but you can actually just use a regular bobbin like you would for tying flies. This happens to be a more professional tool. All I'm doing is wrapping floss down towards the junction of the copper and the hollow core. What this is going to do is it's going to give me a clean junction and clean up this fray. It'll also bond to the fluorocarbon or the copper. We actually use a pliable glue that dries in seconds, if not a minute. And all I want to do is just come down right to the edge of where the hollow core C16 meets either the copper or the monofilament. I don't want to go onto the copper. You can probably cut that and we'll edit that later. Okay, so now what we did, we served this end with the floss. You can see that, and all I did is just finish it off with a bunch of half hitches. We're going to come in with Pliobond. Pliobond is just a pliable adhesive. I don't want to coat it up too bad, I just want to kind of cover everything. Get both sides. Make sure I cover my knot. And now we sit and wait a minute or so. Okay, so now we served both ends, the mono side as well as the copper side. The big thing is if you do use a jig, not to tighten down so much that you crimp or flatten out the monofilament. So now that's complete. On the entire reel, basically where we start, at the back end or on the arbor, we put 100 yards of 50-pound braid. Then I actually ran more hollow core. The braid has a bimini twist knot or a loop knot that allows me to have a splice loop on the hollow core. And then I ran that into a 40-pound section of monofilament so I can tie my planar mass clip to it should I need to. And then again, there's hollow core to attach the monofilament to the copper. I have my 400 feet of copper, attached to the hollow core system that you just saw. And that's the finished product.